From mysterious golden spirals found in Denmark to one of the most important discoveries in modern archaeology, here's 8 most bizarre historical findings. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to They Will Kill You. Hit the like button and request any topics you'd like to learn about in the comments section below. Number 8. Golden Spirals. Some years ago, a pair of amateur archaeologists using metal detectors found 4 mysterious golden spirals in Boeslunde, Denmark. These tiny, tightly wound curls measured about an inch in length. The find prompted a larger archaeological operation that ultimately led to the discovery of around 2,000 similar curls, totaling over half a pound of solid gold. The find dates from the Bronze Age, around 900 BC. The problem is that no one really knows what the spirals were used for. The most prominent theory claims that they were part of priests' attires, which were most likely worn during sun worshipping ceremonies. The fact that wood and fur fragments were also found seems to indicate they were buried in a luxurious box, which might mean they were offered as sacrifice. Number 7. Ancient vampires. Made popular by various works of cinema and literature, vampires have become a big part of popular culture. Yet 800 years ago, they weren't perceived as entertainment, but as a real and imminent threat. In the Middle Age, people in Bulgaria, Romania, and various other parts of Eastern Europe would take an iron stake and plunge it through the heart of anyone they thought was a vampire. Over 100 such corpses, dating back to the Middle Age, were discovered scattered across Bulgaria alone, most with the iron spikes still embedded in their chest. In some parts of Eastern Europe, ancient rituals associated with demons and vampires still seem to find believers. As recently as 2005, a shocking story emerged from Romania. A while after her uncle had died, a woman began screaming that he'd returned as a vampire and that he was eating her alive. The woman was tormented each night and began to wither away. Her husband gathered a few other villagers and dug up the uncle's body. Even though the man had died 6 weeks prior, they reportedly found him with blood in the corner of his lips and a pool of fresh blood in his stomach. They used a scythe and cut out the man's heart, which according to them was still beating. They put it on a pitchfork and burned it to ashes. They made tea out of the ash and gave it to the woman. She reportedly began feeling better the very next day, but the men were subsequently arrested and fined for grave desecration. Number 6. London Hammer. The case of the London Hammer is quite puzzling. In the mid-1930s, Max Hahn and his wife, while taking a walk alongside Red Creek, found a rock with some wood embedded in it and decided to take it home. 10 years later, their son opened the rock only to find a hammerhead within. The only problem was that the rock was subsequently found to be 400 million years old. The obvious question that emerged was, how could a tool made of wood and iron be found in a rock that predates human evolution by millions of years? One theory was that soluble minerals in the limestone had petrified around the tool, forming a concretion. While the rock itself was indeed millions of years old, the minerals that petrified around the tool weren't. Still, carbon dating on the hammerhead proved inconclusive, and it hasn't rusted at all since it was found. Some have argued that it's actually an artifact that predates the biblical flood and, as such, a proof of creationism. Number 5. Man with tongue of stone. In 1991, a cemetery dating back to Roman Britain was excavated and 35 bodies were discovered. Out of all of them, only one man had been buried face down, and his tongue had been replaced by a large, flat stone. It's a rather unique mutilation that wasn't consistent with others known to have been performed at the time. The act of interring the man with his face toward the ground might indicate that he was perceived as a threat to his community. It was most likely done so out of fear that his corpse might rise from the grave. It's unclear whether the amputation of the tongue had been self-inflicted or a form of punishment, but the man was thought to be alive when it was performed. The act of replacing it with a stone could have been intended to make the man whole in death. Yet judging by the position of the skeleton, it was most likely done so that he could never speak again, not even in the afterlife. Number 4. Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is undoubtedly incredibly complex, considering the fact that it's at least 2,000 years old. Found in the wreckage of a Greek cargo ship at the beginning of the 20th century, the clockwork mechanism was composed of numerous bronze gears and featured various faint inscriptions on its outer casing. The mechanism could predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It predates any similar device by at least 1,000 years, and nobody knows when or why this technology was lost in ancient times. Number 3. PARACAS skulls. In 1928, Peruvian archaeologist JULIO found some mysterious skulls on the peninsula of PARACAS in a complex grave system. The 3,000-year-old skulls were elongated and presented signs of intentional cranial deformation. This wasn't an uncommon practice for ancient South American tribes, and other such skulls have been discovered throughout history. It was usually done by attaching 2 wooden boards to the skulls of the children, which would progressively be made tighter. The increasing pressure would permanently deform the bones. Yet these particular remains featured several other odd characteristics. The sagittal suture, which is the joint that's typically seen atop human skulls, was absent. The hole at the bottom of the skull that the spinal cord passes through, known as the foramen magnum, should have been closer to the jawline. The skulls are also significantly heavier and larger in volume than conventional skulls. Some have argued that such properties aren't typically altered by cranial deformation. Also, further testing revealed mutations in their mitochondrial DNA that are unknown in any other animal, including humans and primates. While many scientists have offered plausible explanations for all the abnormalities displayed by the skulls, there are still a few who believe them to be part of some unknown moment in human evolution or proof of alien-human hybrids. Number 2. SAQQARA bird. This bird-shaped artifact dates back to around 200 BC and was found following the excavation of a tomb in SAQQARA, Egypt. Nobody knows the purpose of the SAQQARA bird, but the more conventional theories suggest it might have been a child's toy, a weather vane, or a decorative piece placed on the masts of sacred boats during ceremonies. Yet others, most notably Egyptian archaeologist and physician Khalil Messiah, put forward claims that ancient Egyptians had actually developed the first aircraft known to man. The sycamore woodbird supposedly represents a smaller version of a monoplane, and Khalil added that a horizontal tailplane from the artifact had been lost. With it, the bird could reportedly function as a glider. It wouldn't have been uncommon for ancient Egyptians to place miniature versions of their technology in tombs. Most Egyptologists usually reject Khalil's claims, however. Tests conducted by aerodynamics expert Simon Sanderson seem to indicate that Khalil was right all along. He built a replica of the bird with a stabilizing tailplane and factored in conditions similar to SAQQARA in a wind tunnel. The bird performed unexpectedly well. Sanderson stated that over 2,000 years after the ancient Egyptians carved this mysterious bird, modern technology has proved beyond doubt that it could have flown. Number 1. Dead Sea Scrolls. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls is often regarded as one of the most significant finds in modern archaeology. These manuscripts were discovered between 1946 and 1956 by archaeologists and Bedouin shepherds in a series of caves in Qumran near the Dead Sea. Nobody knows for sure who wrote the scrolls. Most of the 15,000 ancient text fragments are written in Hebrew and most likely originated from a Jewish community that inhabited the West Bank around 2,000 years ago. The texts have enabled scholars to better understand the emergence of Christianity and of Rabbinic Judaism, as well as the relationship between their early religious traditions. There's also a copper scroll, a type of treasure map which, unlike the others, isn't written in ink on parchment or animal skin. It was chiseled onto metal sheets, perhaps to better withstand the test of time, and lists numerous gold and silver caches throughout the region. However, none of the riches were recovered, and the leading theory is that they were pillaged following a Roman invasion of the area. Perhaps the most bizarre out of all the Dead Sea Scrolls are the first known copies of a book of giants. Written in Aramaic, the texts tell the story of giants who were the offspring of mortal women and the sons of God. The giants wrought havoc on humanity, killing and consuming them, as well as destroying the structures they built. The possible existence of giants is argued by some creationists as a consequence of the atmospheric quality of a pre-flood Earth, which would have supported their growth. Thanks for watching. Which do you think was the strangest discovery? Let us know in the comments section below.